In at 10, animatronics. We can joke all we want about how Afton has a hardcore bloodlust in this series, but his desire for human destruction has been there since the start. Thanks to the fast facts found in FNAF AR's files, we learned that the Funtime robots, the ones used in Sister Location, were actually some of the first robots Afton ever made. Not exactly the first, but among the first. And that they were built with special containment chambers inside to store away items, which we all know is code for children's storage tanks, which we see the Funtimes actually have in their blueprints from FNAF 6. So this means that Afton has been wanting to kill kids since before his kids had died. Hell, even maybe before his kids were born, depending on the timeline. Which at this point is as simple as my feelings for Vanessa, which is not simple at all. If anyone like cosplays Vanessa, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. Possibly killed wife. This hasn't been confirmed as of yet, so it's currently not canon. Many people still consider William Afton offing his wife to be the story of her demise, even though technically we know nothing about her, and she could still be alive for all we know. Many people consider her to have died in either a car crash or because William killed her, and those are like the most common thoughts on the matter. Although the her dying in a car accident thing came from like a FNAF original music video that was probably using Minecraft characters, that is in no way canon to the series. Like, I've had people yell at me in my DMs telling me that it's canon that she died in a car accident, but no, it's not. It's not even canon that she died, really, but the potential is still there that William was the reason she kicked the animatronic parts filled bucket. Since it's only a possibility though, it's only number 9. If it gets confirmed, I'm more than willing to bump it up higher, because like statistically speaking, your spouse is the person most likely to kill you, so she should have been on her guard. And it ain't missing children's incident. I mean, this is a fairly low-hanging fruit since it's like the inciting moment for the whole series, but I think it's worth calling out at least number 8. The missing children's incident, in case you forgot, is the infamous incident where 5 kids go missing inside of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and are never seen again. Police investigated but were never able to find the bodies, thus they had to let their suspect, in this case William Afton, go due to a lack of evidence. However, this is one of the most horrifically painful moments that you can think of, especially if you're a parent yourself. 5 families went into Freddy Fazbear's wanting their kids to have the time of their lives in 1985, but left without their favorite people. They had the time of their lives, alright, it just so happened to also be the end of their lives. And not only that, but Afton ends up getting away with it since the police were terrible at their jobs or were getting paid off. Still not sure which one is the case in this series, but the missing children's incident is one of the most messed up things to ever happen in this series, but without it we wouldn't have the series. At least it's all fake, right? And it's 7, hiding spot. Okay, again, how the absolute living hell did you get away with this? The smell of rotting bodies would ruin any place that you're in, okay? It doesn't matter if you're eating, if you're dancing, I don't know, committing murder. The smell of rotting bodies always puts a damper on things. And the heat from the animatronics moving on like all their insides, because you know, it's heat. It would speed up the decomposition and make it stink even worse, because heat always makes things worse. And the animatronics are in front of people every single day, okay? People even started complaining that the animatronics were leaking blood, as well as, quote, smelling like death. If that was real life, William would be gone, okay? He would have been caught instantaneously. Like, oh man, we never found the bodies of these kids. Wait, hold up. These animatronics are leaking blood, smell like death. Call Agent Booth. We need to check these. Then they found the missing kids, alright, Afton is under arrest. They already suspected him. And I mean, like, having bodies hidden in your animatronics where you're the technician for the suits and also, I don't know, the CEO. Yeah, you're instantly incarcerated. I don't know. I don't know how this wasn't just a clean-cut case. Okay, I know that was important for the story of the games, but it shouldn't have happened, alright? His whole plan is a dumpster fire of embarrassment, and I love it. And at 6, lied about Remnant. Now, this isn't confirmed, much like the fact that he possibly killed his wife. However, this seems like the most likely explanation to me. So if you want a full explanation as to why I think Afton was the one who lied about Remnant, go check out that video linked up in the iCard. But I'm going to wrap this up quickly here. Basically, there have been 3 fires so far that were meant to finish off William Afton, and none of them have worked. The reason Henry tried fire was because that's supposed to be the thing that can burn off Remnant. However, Remnant can also also be found in liquid form, so how can it be molten but also be burnt by fire? It makes more sense that William made up the lie that he could be killed by fire, so Henry would keep trying and failing to kill him, so he wouldn't have to worry about actually dying, since literally every time he's been caught in the fire, he has survived. And the other animatronics infused with Remnant also survived, like Baby, the puppet, and entered in FNAF 6, as we see from the blob in Security Breach. And in 4, later that night. The Midnight Motorist minigame seems simple enough, but the true horror of this minigame comes from the implications of it, since in the game files the minigame is known as Later That Night. Most people akin the game to what happened after William kills Charlotte outside Fredbear's Family Diner in FNAF 2's Take Cake minigame. But if this is true, this is probably one of the scariest moments in all of FNAF history. This man just killed someone, but then goes home to his kids, reprimands his son and abuses him by locking him in his room so much that he had to break his window to escape. Plus, think of all the people driving past him, unaware of the violent crime that he had just committed. It's scary because this is the case in the real world too. Technically speaking, anyone we encounter can be a serial killer. And that is a horrific thought, since also you're only alive because everyone you've ever encountered has chosen not to kill you, which only makes the whole anyone could be a serial killer thing even worse. And in this case, this man literally just killed someone and then comes home and is going to yell at his son who's been in his room all day. Like, god damn, bro, how much residual anger do you have suppressed inside your body? Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Xanthophobia. I mentioned how chromophobia was the fear of colors. Well, xanthophobia is a subcategory of that, particularly for the fear of yellow. And considering how William got springlocked thanks to a yellow suit, he could associate that color with that crime, meaning that he would fear Chica, explaining the change in Security Breach, as well as Golden Freddy, which explains why there is no Golden Freddy in Security Breach as well. I mean, there are obviously other explanations, but I think this could be one of them. I mean, like, come on, it always seems to be like it's a stretch to be afraid of a color. But this begs the question, is anyone who watches these videos afraid of a specific color? Because if you are, please let me know below. I'm curious about how you live your everyday life, especially if it's a primary color. But I feel like you're pretty safe if it's green, because I don't think green shows up in these videos pretty much. Because I can't wear green, otherwise I disappear. You don't see this because it's gone. So... Penultimately, in at number 2, first victim. They say a killer's first victim is the most important, since it usually indicates what got them to start killing or other psychological clues that they could use to predict his next moves. But in the case of William Afton, his first victim was the daughter of his longtime business partner Henry, which is hella messed up because she was 3 at the time, that time being 1983. And this is the year that Afton's life started going downhill in the worst ways possible. He starts killing off kids, and then sticks with that MO throughout the rest of his criminal career. But the fact that his first victim was someone who trusted him, who didn't exactly suspect him even though her father did, is something even I fear. I'm not a parent, so I can only imagine how this must have felt. And if that was me, I'd be doing a lot more than burning down restaurants in an attempt to put that down. I'd be doing it myself, especially if he had killed my daughter when she was only 3 years old. Like, I can feel the rage brewing, and I don't even have someone that I could, in theory, make a daughter with. And finally, in at number 1, killed his kids. The worst thing that Afton has done by far is gotten his own kids killed. Sure, he may not have done it directly, but his actions ended up resulting in all 3 of his kids' demises. Him killing Charlotte got Fredbear's closed, which resulted in him having to open up circus babies, which made him have to dust off Baby and the other fun times, which were designed to kill in the first place. Baby ends up grabbing and crushing Elizabeth, resulting in her possessing the animatronic. He superpowered the jaw of the Fredbear animatronic used in the new Freddy Fazbear's, which ends up crushing his youngest son's skull, since that was not a Springlock failure due to all the Springlocks being active, since it was in animatronic mode, not suit mode, so there was nothing to fail, meaning that he had to have been crushed by the power of his jaw. And while you could argue that it was Michael's fault, why would he think that Fredbear's mouth was overpowered? As the suit technician, William knew what was going on and intentionally souped up the jaw power. And then he gets Michael killed when he sends him down to find his sister in sister location, which ends up getting him stuffed with innards and then letting himself burn in Pizzeria Simulator. So yeah, William's actions got all 3 of his kids killed just because he had to kill his business partner's daughter. And at 10, killing where you eat. The biggest mistake that William ever made, in my personal opinion, and I will say this until the day I die, was the fact that he killed people in his restaurant, okay? It's unknown if this was always his intention, but like, come on. Who would think that this is a good idea? Like, who in the comments wants to come at me and try to justify killing your prime demographic in your place of business, okay? Dealers don't kill their customers, okay? Mechanics only bleed their their clients dry of their money, not their blood. So like, why would William think that this is a good idea? Literally, go anywhere else. This is just like, it's basically killing in your house and then like calling the cops and saying, hey, I killed someone in my house. It's putting unwanted attention and scrutiny on literally everything you do just so they can try to catch you. Like, you even end up getting banned from going back into your building when the investigation is underway. And it's not like it helped your business. You had to close the first location because of this, resulting in you having to open another one that killed your daughter. So, yeah, pretty embarrassing if you ask me. All you had to do was go to the park or some random alleyway or like a laser tag place, and then boom, your kids would be alive, you'd be harder to suspect, and you'd be rich from your business, because honestly, it was a good idea, but you're done. And at 9, Cassidy. Assuming for this scenario that Cassidy is the one you should not have killed, this was also one of the most embarrassing things that William could have done. Or maybe he doesn't consider it a mistake, because like the one you should not have killed is kind of keeping him alive after all, although it's still unclear if they're doing that currently or not. But they're doing it as a way to make him suffer. So I feel like getting possessed by a child is pretty embarrassing. I mean, that, like, depending on the angle that you want to like look at, that I'm going with it's embarrassing. If I was possessed by a child, I would be embarrassed. I don't think I am, hopefully. But even if he does like consider this a good thing, or if Cassidy doesn't end up being the one you should not have killed, which in my opinion she's not, but like killing those 5 kids that made up the missing children's incident that likely ended with Cassidy, that's dude. Come on, we already talked about it. You killed in the wrong place. It's embarrassing. So, you know what? If you don't want to count Cassidy as the embarrassing mistake, count the missing children's incident as that mistake, all right? Just count it whatever way you want. It's on the list. Deal with it. And at 8, Charlotte. While yes, Charlotte may have been Afton's first true kill, causing his descent into absolute freaking madness. In the games, Charlotte ends up possessing the puppet, who then gives life to the other animatronics, which causes you to disassemble them and release their spirit. In both universes where William kills Charlotte, it comes back to bite him in the since Henry comes after him for it, which results in what should be his death multiple times over. And not to mention how in the book specifically, unbeknownst to her at least, she is an animatronic robot that was meant to replace the daughter that Henry had lost. But it was also revealed that the animatronic is also Baby. You know, the baby animatronic that we all know and love? Yeah, who can switch between her forms at will, and then the human version doesn't remember being Baby. So yeah, Charlotte in the books is also Baby, which is also in the games William's daughter. And at 7, Stored his daughter. While we know Afton isn't the best father, I think it's something else to end up locking your robot possessed by the soul of your dead daughter into an animatronic testing facility. That seems a bit too far if you ask for my humble opinion. But nevertheless, he still did it, and that's what Sister Location is all about. And William was even the one who sent us as Michael down there in the first place, and then we get shoved full of entered bits so that they can escape. Did William know about that plan? Unsure, because like in FNAF 6, Baby says that she'll make her dad proud. So was that William's intention to like send us down there so Baby could get out? And if that was the case, why lock her down in there in the first place? I mean, like, if she was your daughter, why not have her just like chill around the house, right? Like in the books, Baby is able to transform between Baby and like a human looking animatronic at will. So why not add this to that version, and then you can have your daughter back, albeit a little more messed up, but like more like you in the long run, right? I don't know. This family is messed the hell up and nothing makes sense. And at 6, Henry. Why did you think that killing Charlotte wouldn't have any consequences, okay? Like, you killed your business partner's daughter. That was probably pretty obvious to him, especially since he already suspected you were up to something, and he took extra care to protect his daughter, and then she still died. That is 100% the superhero origin story that Henry needed. A vengeful father if I have ever seen one, and he didn't even need vengeance when he was putting that green bracelet on his daughter. So then you know what? Then he's after you, or it seems like it, and you don't kill him next? Like, killing Henry would have done so many wonders for your criminal career. I mean, like, yeah, the cops were already suspicious of you. As long as they can't find a body, they've already said that, like, they can't arrest you without a body, apparently. So if they won't put you away for 5 missing kids, they won't put you away for a missing father as well. Especially a jury who has to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that you're the killer. And I mean, like, I don't know, that's kind of up in the air, and like, you'd rather not go to trial if you were being charged with murder, but still, without a body, there can't really be any forensic evidence. So if you just, I don't know, throw it in a wood chipper. Again, these videos are going to be the reason I get hauled into the police station. Halfway through into number 5, a Plutophobia. This one I feel is kind of guaranteed, but a Plutophobia is the fear of bathing. And I mean, if a leaky ceiling was enough to cause those spring locks to fail, imagine what getting in a bath would do for dear old Willie. I mean, there's not really a point in being scared of it now since you are one with the machine. They've already spring locked, you're already dead, basically. But this man is decaying or has been skinned alive by these robotic parts, so a bath would be very appreciated by anyone who has to be in your vicinity, because, you know, it probably smells atrocious. Like, worse than anything that the Bones crew would have had to deal with on that show. Even the Palant stuff, because that was... yikes. But, I mean, could you blame William for being scared of bathing after getting trapped in an animatronic suit that collapsed because it got a little bit wet? In it for fun times. Now, there's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state of the art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping you could shed some light on those. Well, she can dance, she can sing. She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream. Yeah, with all due respect, those weren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton. Yeah, that classic line of William seemingly being interrogated by the police that plays the first time you open up Sister Location is definitely showcasing how embarrassingly stupid this guy is. The cops know what these animatronics are doing and are capable of, and what they were designed to do. So they instantly end up being even more suspicious of him, and considering, like, the circumstances, we can also assume that Elizabeth is inside the robot. Like, there's no way that they confiscated the animatronics before they had to close Circus Babies. So she is definitely still inside the robot. So they're definitely keeping a closer eye on him, and his daughter's in a robot that they're asking him about, okay? Bro, yeah, why? Designing the fun times as Killbots before seemingly you actually had the rest of the FNAF roster, definitely an embarrassing moment. Especially considering how one of the fun times was meant to symbolize your dead wife. I don't wanna know how you were trying to fill that one with souls, bro. Leave me out of it. Getting close to the end in number 3, the Curse. The Curse is an Aztec themed skin for the Springtrap animatronic and was released on March 5th in the Ancient Equinox event and is the 4th skin for Springtrap in total in FNAF AR. Curse is a teal colored Springtrap dressed to look like an ancient Aztec warrior, and he has a large feathered crown and a golden chest piece. This guy looks like he's actually decaying finally, which is certainly a better spin on things since decaying bodies aren't purple, even though the series seems to try to push that idea. Bruises are purple, decay is commonly, at least in cartoons and this kind of media, depicted as green, much like how Springtrap's suit in the Curse form is a dark green. This could also be a subtle reference to the fact that Afton is a curse on these games, being unable to get rid of him in any meaningful way, or maybe just about Glitchtrap. He's a curse on the series too. He needs to die permanently, please, for the love of God. Penultimately, in at number 2, Princess Quest. The whole reason Princess Quest is a thing in Security Breach was to lock Vanny away and prevent her from regaining control of her body. So why did William create or allow for the creation of a fail-safe to allow her to escape? I mean, sure, they didn't expect the size of a 4-year-old kid to come along and figure it out, but given the track record of William, you'd think that he'd have smartened up after at least 40 years, but that's like having a self-destruct button on the thing that's gonna save the world, that the villain can just come up and go, boop. That's like some Austin Powers level comedy. Or like if the Flash had a steal my speed button on like him anywhere, at any point. It's just stupid. If you want something to work, why give it away to fail? And then you let it happen, it fails because of a kid the size of a 4-year-old. Maybe, not even. This is one of the dumbest, most embarrassing things that William has had happen, and probably like the 3rd dumbest overall, okay? But seriously, what was the point? behind a way to undo your evil plans. Well, that's like one of the most ridiculous, unbelievable things in a story about serial killers getting possessed and animatronic robots getting possessed. I know that it was like it was required so that we could have a good ending to this game, but like that ending isn't even canon, so we don't care about it. Okay, it was one of the dumbest things that has ever happened in this series. Why? Why would you do that? And finally, into number 1, Springtrap. Being the genius behind some of the most advanced robotic technology in the universe, we expect a lot from William. Okay, he's the suit technician, he's the main killer, he seems to be the CEO of the company, so he should really know what he's doing, right? Apparently not. Since after discovering that the original 5 animatronics were possessed, he disassembled them to learn their secrets. This inadvertently released the spirits of the original 5 victims, though, causing William to panic, which is understandable since firstly they're freaking ghost kids that he never expected to see again, and also because they're the ghost kids that he killed. Okay, so this absolute animatronic genius, the technician that has handled the suit maintenance for years and has explained to every employee the proper procedure for the Springlock suits, including the spring bodysuit that he uses, ends up climbing inside the suit in a panic, in an attempt to make himself feel more powerful and maybe scare off the ghost kids. However, he's so smart that he didn't notice the moisture in the room, the leaking ceiling, which causes the spring locks that were active at this moment since it was in suit mode to fail, which would have killed him had he not been possessed by the one you should not have killed. Yeah, embarrassing. And at 10, Dave Miller. In the novels, Afton is described as being overweight around the time that the actual serial killings occur, but he eventually lost the weight while in his Dave Miller persona, which comes from the FNAF novels, particularly in the Silver Eyes. As Dave, William is stated to be tall and was described as being sallow and thin, with his skin sagging in appearance. His face was poorly shaven and his eyes looked unfocused and sunken, I relate. His security guard uniform doesn't seem to fit him properly, and the uniform was grubby and torn in places. With his name tag hung askew on his chest, the scar on his neck was also ugly and curved, almost like a perfect half moon, and the same scar appeared on the other side of his neck. In the graphic novels, Dave is depicted as having brown messy hair and gray eyes. He wears a security uniform, his shirt is white, and his black tie and his black pants, and due to the Springlock failure incident, there are endoskeleton arm marks on him where his arms are. Yeah, you know, that's also how he got the 2 scars on the back of his neck, the Springlock. And at 9, Vanny. Vanny is possessed by Glitchtrap, a reincarnation of William Afton, and appears as the main antagonist of FNAF Security Breach. It's also revealed in the Princess Quest minigames that she was the main protagonist of FNAF Help Wanted, the character that we play as, where she actually ended up first getting corrupted by Glitchtrap when we beat the game. She also plays a role in FNAF AR Special Delivery, but that's beside the point, really. Vanny wears a white bunny costume that has stitching all over it with a large pink tartan stitch on her left hip. Vanny is shown to be murderous and evil as she attempts to trick her target Gregory into falling into a trap by pretending to be nice and well-meaning as Vanessa. She seems to cower in fear of her master Glitchtrap as shown in scrap dialogue, but she also quivers when she's actually talking about him. She's also uncertain, based on her voice, when being confronted about her task, implying that she was first hesitant to kill people. However, by the time the security breaches come around, she's either already killed 9 children at the Pizzaplex, as seen in a newspaper article, although they could have also just been captured, or it's just that Glitchtrap has more control. And while she wasn't around much in the game, technically being possessed by Glitchtrap makes her a version of William, so suck it, haters. And at 8, Scrap Trap. William returned once again in FNAF Pizzeria Simulator with a new design, this time dubbed Scrap Trap. While he does retain some key physical details from Springtrap's design though, there are some major differences. Unlike his previous design where his interior was mostly machinery, now it seems to be almost entirely organic. And it shows his human skeleton as well as his old flesh, with 5 bony fingers on his right hand. And the reason as to why William is so much more detailed this time, probably because more of his body can actually be seen, and you can actually see his full body in like the alley in one of the boot screens. There are way more torn patches in his suit this time with multiple metal wires and exposed and other bits, and he lost his forearm for some reason. Half of his ear is gone, like the last version, and the rest of his right ear is gone. His feet now have fabric over them with 3 large toes. His eyes no longer glow and now they look completely metallic. The mask also has some significant differences with much larger eye sockets, a black nose, a square muzzle, a singular pair of buck teeth, and a row of at the top with like small sharp needle teeth at the bottom too, as well as just being differently proportioned, which begs the question, how the hell did this happen? Artistic license is the actual answer, but in universe I have no idea how his head got bigger. And it's 7, Popophobia. Popophobia is one of my all-time favorite fears because it's the name for the fear of the Pope. Yes, the Pope, like Vatican Big Hat Pope. It wouldn't really explain anything in the series or make much sense, like there's basically no evidence for it, but William killing people is like one of the biggest sins, right? So such an unholy act and unholy man being scared of the most holy man in existence is kind of logical in my eyes, right? Is it just me? Like, this seems like the most realistic weird fear that he could have. And by weird, I mean something so odd that I want to talk about it. Like the fear of peanut butter being stuck to the roof of your mouth. I love phobias. I don't know why, they're just so interesting. Like the Truman Show, how they fake killed off his father so that Truman would be scared of water and then never leave his island. And at 6, Purple Guy. William Afton is depicted as the purple guy in FNAF 2, a mysterious purple figure in the FNAF series. In the Take Cake minigame, he is depicted driving up outside of the pizzeria and then killing Charlotte outside of the restaurant. Finally, then he lures 5 children into the back room using cake, and then seen in the Foxy Go 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 minigame, he killed them too. Those are the ones that presumably go on to possess Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, and Golden Freddy. The puppet would then give them life in the animatronic suits to save their souls, possibly. Again, we don't know, it's FNAF, I don't know. The wiki is saying a lot of things like it's confirmed, but it's really not. But it is unconfirmed whether William or the puppet actually put the kids in the suits. In the second game, he is implied to be the night guard before Jeremy Fitzgerald, and then after surviving a week on the shift, he was upped to day shift because he complained about the conditions of his workplace, and he threatened to unionize. Get the employers sweating. Then he went on to kill 5 more kids. This version is mostly scary because I remember the lore of trying to figure out who he was, and this series came out when I was in the 10th grade. Alright, that's like when I was 14, since I was born in September and this was released in like the summer. Okay, Purple Guy was created after I was 15. It has been more than 5 years since Purple Guy's been a thing, and I've been suffering ever since. Halfway through into number 5, Vanessa. Possessing Vanessa was certainly one of the more messed up things that William did. It just sounds weird, you know? Like this guy pops up into your VR headset, then takes over your body without your consent, so now you end up killing for him. That's kind of messed up. Actually, no, not kind of, that's incredibly messed up. I mean, she knows what's going on too. She actively talks in hushed tones about how she can't talk about it to her therapist. So like, what the hell is the dynamic here? I mean, possessing someone is already pretty messed up, but then causing them to make a rabbit costume so you're still a furry is a whole other set of kinks that I don't even want to talk about. And then, she knows that there's an evil inside her, but she can't do anything about it. She fears for her life, which only makes me wonder what William has been saying to her, and she's now, with full knowledge of her darker half, willing to lock a kid in a lost and found room until the police arrive, despite never calling the police, and then lets that darker half track him down. And at 4, Clown Springtrap. Clown Springtrap is Springtrap's 3rd skin and the 3rd skin to be introduced in the Dark Circus event for FNAF AR. Clown Springtrap has a pale white suit and blue and purple makeup above his eyes. He has messy purple hair coming out of his head, and he also has large red lipstick because why not? He's a clown. Clown Springtrap's body is mostly covered by a large suit with ripped up black pants and a black shirt, along with a red and purple vest. He features large red clown shoes along with a large red bow tie and flower on his chest, and his right eyelid has also been stitched up for whatever reason. Finally, he carries around a very large red mallet in his left hand, and considering how clowns are one of the most common fears in the world, I think putting Clown Springtrap on this list is definitely justified, especially when he's intentionally jump scaring you in your own home, even if it's on your phone, okay? The dude is menacing. He has a hammer. It's like Harley Quinn, but not as cute. And he's also basically meant to be a reference to John Wayne Gacy, at least in my head, that's how I understand it, so yeah. Getting close to the end, and number 3, Crying Child. I've had a ton of people complain to me about how Crying Child's death wasn't William's fault, since he wasn't the one who put Crying Child's head in Fredbear's mouth, okay? And then the Springlocks failed because he was crying. But let's be honest, there is no logical way that animatronic jaw should have crushed his skull. Even the Springlocks, okay? The Springlocks weren't active and would have required a lot of power to actually accomplish this goal with just normal opening and closing power of a jaw. So the only way that Crying Child's skull could have been crushed was if Afton had intentionally, for some reason, supercharged the jaw of the animatronic. Which it would make sense if he wanted to use it as a kill machine, like as a prototype fun time, or maybe he wanted to use it as a backup kill suit in case Spring Bonnie ended up failing. Figuring more power in the jaw would help him, which clearly it did, just in literally the worst way possible. There's also no way that this is a Springlock failure, guys, okay? The suit was already in animatronic mode, meaning that the Springlock mechanisms that are the reason that it could fail because they're used to keep the robotic parts to the size that someone can fit in the suit weren't being used because it was in animatronic mode. So they don't need to keep the robotic parts to the side. The Springlock failure problem comes when those mechanisms are put under stress of having to keep the parts away from the person in the suit, okay? And then if they get wet, that's when they can loose and then that's why they can't get wet, okay? Keep in mind that the term Springlock in this context is being referred to the parts that move the robotic bits away inside the actual suit. Since the suit is also referred to as a Springlock, I feel like I kind of need to clarify that. But ultimately, in at number 2, Springtrap rule. One of the most terrifying things that, while not really has happened to anyone in any of the games, is the sheer amount of famous internet rule images and videos that there are for these characters. Like, I get it if it's Chica, okay? But like, the worst thing that I think, at least for the terrifying scale, is Springtrap Rule 34 art. The rule basically being that for anything you can find on the internet, there will be some adult version of that content. Unfortunately, FNAF and even Springtrap are not immune to this rule. But just think about this for a second, alright? Just really think. Most people consider William Afton to be dead, even if he's not actually dead. Which means that most people who look these things up are looking at a dead serial killer's rotting corpse stuck inside an animatronic that has shoved every inch of him with metal and want him to shove it into other things. And then think, yeah, damn. That's sexy. I've had people DM me these form of Springtrap images before and they have been instantly blocked. Like, dude, what? He's literally a man who should be dead but is being kept alive by the spirit of one of his victims, those victims being kids, and then you want to see him lubing up Troll Tower? Dude, this is the reason God is dead. Specifically this. Nothing else, just Springtrap Rule 34. Finally, in at number 1, Burn Trap. William appears as the optional yet canon final boss of FNAF Security Breach, named as Burn Trap according to his game files. He only appears in the Afton ending, and this form is a result of Vanny downloading William's soul or code brain from the digital realm into a hybrid of animatronics. I don't even know. Burn Trap's new rotten form appears to be his old one, like a modified, tattered greenish brown spring Bonnie suit, but even more severely withered because he's been through 3 fires, and his entire lower jaw is finally ripped out, revealing the skull covered in blood, which for some reason is still there. His suit is missing fur with the exception of his chest, hips, left foot, upper leg, which were all burned away, revealing more of his corpse and his charred remains. His old endoskeleton has been replaced with some of the endoskeletons from other animatronics, maybe even glam rock animatronics for his hands. He's made taller, and he has claws. God. Just why? In at 10, Robophobia. Now, there isn't really any evidence to this since this fear is so incredibly odd, but since it's so odd and I won't really have another place to talk about this, Robophobia is the fear of having peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth. Not the fear of peanut butter, like you don't even have to be allergic, just the idea of peanut butter being stuck to the roof of your mouth is chilling for whatever reason. And it's totally possible that William Afton might have had this phobia, but we can never really be certain, okay? It's interesting to consider. It makes him a little more human, albeit a slightly odder one, but I mean, this is a phobia for a reason. Maybe because the roof of your mouth is where like your nose connects to your mouth, or something similar. I don't know. Or maybe it could just be because William is a psychopath. Either rationale works for me. In at 9, Phobiphobia. Phobiphobia actually is a fear that in my opinion makes sense, because honestly teens can be stupid and incredibly annoying. Yeah, that's right, Phobiphobia is the fear of teens, which could help explain William's MO, where he chooses to kill kids instead of anyone older. Maybe because he's scared of the older kids and thinks that they could actually overpower him. Or in reality, maybe they'd end up killing him, because like I said, teens can be quite the severe pain in the ass. Or teens can be horrible, especially if they're hanging out at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Like, have you ever seen teens hanging around a Chuck E. Cheese? And if you have you ever seen them doing it because they like the establishment? No, they're doing it because they have some nefarious purpose in mind, whether it be vandalism, or to antagonize someone who's working there, or maybe just yelling at some children. Who knows? But they're typically never there because they just want to have fun. In at 9, Gamophobia. Gamophobia is something that I'm getting closer to every single day. What is it, you ask? Well, dear viewer, the fear of marriage. Gamophobia is more than just being cautious or somewhat hesitant about making a big commitment. People who have this condition experience intense fear when faced with the reality or even sometimes just the thought of being in a committed relationship or marriage. For some people, negative or traumatic experiences in the past can contribute to an intense fear of commitment. Past relationships can also contribute to the onset of gamophobia. Toxic relationships, previous divorce, and infidelity can contribute to a fear of getting too deep into a new relationship, which could actually help explain one of the most curious parts of the series, Ballora. We don't know if William was ever married. We don't even know if these kids are biologically his, meaning that he could have adopted or straight up kidnapped Michael, Elizabeth, and Crankchild. So, a fear of marriage or commitment could explain why he created Ballora, so the kids would have a mother without William needing to commit, whether it be due to childhood trauma or a previous relationship. But considering that he's a serial killer, I'm gonna go with a childhood trauma. And it's 7, Glitchtrap. Glitchtrap is the digital manifestation of William Afton that first appears in Help Wanted. Glitchtrap takes on the form of a man wearing a cartoonish Spring Bunny costume based on Spring Bunny's original design from a poster advertising Fredbear's Family Diner. He also wears a purple star speckled vest, a purple bow tie, and 2 black buttons around the top of his chest like he's wearing a suit even though it's literally just fur. He also has stitches across his hands and across like the rest of his body because the suit is supposed to be sewn together because it's all fabric and not an animatronic. And he also has vivid purple eyes, which is the tiniest little pupil, and it's terrifying, which are the first thing visible when he actually starts to appear to the player's right. In blacklight mode, his eyes will actually turn blue with white circular pupils, and he has very large whiskers on the side of his face, 3 eyelashes for some reason on his eyes, and large arching eyebrows, making him just as surprised as I am. While he is unable to jump scare or really hurt you in the game, that does make him less scary, but he is certainly creepy and definitely scarier than Scraptrap. And at 6, Autophobia. The fear of being alone is known as autophobia, which is also a way to help remember that autobiography is one written by the subject of the book. However, William having a fear of being alone could explain a lot of the series. I mean, this man ends up creating a surrogate wife animatronic, has 3 kids despite not seemingly wanting them around until he can't have them around anymore, and then loses those kids and goes berserk. Well, I mean, like he wanted to and was planning on killing before they died, but then he really goes hard into it after they died. But it could also explain why he tasks Michael with going to find his sister's possessed robot while he's supposed to be trapped in a room alone, because interacting with his only son, in any form I guess, could help with this fear. It could also be that his multiple personalities all keep each other company, since I'm sure every single one of them is a killer if he has multiple, just because it's William, so of course they all would be. Halfway through into number 5, Elizabeth. Speaking of mistakes, let's talk about his own daughter. I get it, because she's a mistake. Actually, we don't know. She might be. I don't know how William thought that this was a good idea though. I feel like this guy, trying to brainstorm how to capture kids more efficiently, and he hadn't even started killing at this point. He's like, oh, I know, I can make a robot to lure them in with ice cream and then grab them where they're close. Okay, so what's it gonna look like? Oh, let's call my daughter and ask for some design tips, Then Elizabeth ends up making the most predictable move ever and going directly against her father's instructions like a kid to go see the robot. That's basically perfect in her eyes. William, why? Why did you think that this wasn't going to happen? You had to lock your child in his room so that he wouldn't go to Freddy Fazbear's fucking Pizza, and you think that your daughter isn't gonna walk up to an animatronic, especially at the age where they want to piss you off. And they're also seemingly loaded because you own a successful entertainment business, okay? Spoiled rich kids listening to their dad when they say to not touch a giant robot that was made to appeal to kids. Yeah, that's gonna work. God, you're a special kind of stupid. It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. It is truly embarrassing, bro. Okay? All you needed to do was have a blacklist and say, don't kill these kids. And you would have been fine. But no. In at 4, Panophobia. While phobias usually refer to specific fears, like a Plutophobia being the fear of bathing, sometimes fears are more general, like chromophobia being the fear of colors. But Panophobia is the fear of everything, basically. In a way, it's the fear of a vague and persistent unknown evil. And this, while a bit intense, could explain why William had a psychotic break. The fear that something evil was lurking around every corner yeah, that's a pretty rough one, and would definitely cause some damage. Maybe even enough damage that he thought that he would have to protect himself. I mean, children can literally be the worst humans on Earth, so I understand his target market on that front. Like, I wouldn't be able to do those things. I'm just saying that, like, I think that maybe William thinks that he's trying to do God's work by eliminating those that he sees as evil. Evil. I meant evil. And this phobia would help explain that quite a lot. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, stuffed. One of the most deranged things that William Afton did was stuff the bodies of the original 5 missing children into the original 5 animatronics: Bonnie, Foxy, Freddy, Chica, and Golden Freddy. And the craziest part is that he didn't get caught for it. Yeah, he didn't. The animatronics smelt like death, started leaking blood and other fluids, and the police didn't bat an eye. He put these bodies in animatronics that perform for other kids and their parents every single day. How does anyone think that that's a good idea? Unless it was his way of displaying his kills or something, like some of the crime shows like to mention. How some killers enjoy the world knowing what they did, since it helps them feel more powerful or something. Fuels their ego. Like, maybe even if they didn't know that the bodies were there, William could be using that as an ego boost, which is messed up. And also ruins the whole he did it because his kids were dying theory, aside from the whole him killing before his kids died thing. Also, how did the police not confiscate the animatronics for evidence? Penultimately, in at number 2, Plutophobia. I genuinely believe that Afton had to have Plutophobia. Not because he didn't want Pluto to be a planet, but because instead, Plutophobia is the fear of money. And this man made all kinds of horrible business decisions. Killing people in his own restaurant, hiding bodies in the animatronics. I've gone over this in multiple times in multiple videos, but the only way I can explain it is if this guy was just straight up scared of money. It's like the only thing that in my mind really makes sense. Like, sure, you wanted to use it as a killing den for your homicidal tendencies. Sure, okay, but how about do that? And also have a profitable business, so your children don't feel the need to walk up to robots that you specifically told them not to touch. Or even enough, maybe just enough, to have a babysitter, making sure that they don't do stupid things, like walking up to the animatronics you told them not to, or running off to that place again, or stuff their siblings in animatronic mouths. Did that ever occur to you? Cause of course it didn't. Cause you must be scared of money. It's the only thing that makes sense. I've solved FNAF. And finally, in at number 1, Robophobia. This is literally the phobia this game was made for. Like, sure, it wasn't actually the reason it was made, but seriously, this is the perfect fear for these games. While sure, the thought of mannequins can creep anyone out, Robophobia is literally the fear of robots, and is surely the bread and butter of not only this series, but William as well. William must hate animatronics with a passion now. Since the victims possessed them, he got spring-locked by one, he can only survive by being in one now thanks to his consciousness being sentient code. I mean, it's ridiculous. If he isn't scared of robots, it would be a miracle. And I think he kind of deserves to be scared of robots, you know? Since he's combined with one, it would make him constantly in horrific terror, which is something that I think we would all love to see. And understandably so. I mean, this is the reason I can't sleep half the time. This guy caused me to think about everything way too goddamn much. According to police reports that saw the substance in the FNAF books, it's appeared to be a bubbling liquid mercury. The appearance of this glowing silvery liquid is similar to Remnant depicted in the novel trilogy, particularly in the 4th closet, which makes sense given that Remnant, as we know, is a combination of human soul and metal, which is created when a soul possesses a metal-based object like an animatronic endoskeleton. In the Fazbear Frights books, where most of this lore comes from, its powers are expanded upon. Remnant can be used to make already living beings even more powerful through the power of positive memories. Kind of like how everyone gets defeated by the power of love in The Flash. The primary scientist studying Remnant is Dr. Talbert, a friend of Phineas Taggart who studied its negative counterpart, Agony, which now means that the agony that possesses animatronics and the human soul are two different things, but seemingly both of which had to come from someone who died. Talbert studied
studied Remnant because his daughter Renelle was sick when she was younger and he wanted to hold on to the good memories of her in case he lost her. Remnant could also be isolated and put into a certain object. So Talbot created a pendant made from Remnant metal as a gift for Renelle. Keep in mind that this Remnant is also just a form of metal. It's kind of like a metal compound, like Damascus steel, but instead of a lot of layers of steel, it's metal and souls melted down, and then that is liquid Remnant, but then as a solid, I guess you could say it's a Remnant nugget. It's unclear how Dr. Talbot got his hands on such a large amount of Remnant, but he had a steady supply that somehow was consistently delivered to his house. This also got the attention of an evil entity named Eleanor, who was introduced, or I guess created in the story to be beautiful from 1:35 AM, the second Fazbear Frights book. Her goal was to obtain Remnant for herself to become even more powerful, so that she could spread pain and suffering across the world using the power of positive vibes. However, what we currently know about Remnant and Agony tells us that to destroy it properly, we need to burn it. Hence why there have really been so many fires in this series. FNAF 3, 6, and 9 all end with something or someone getting set on fire. FNAF 3's fire was all about dealing with Springtrap, and FNAF 6 was about putting everyone who knew about the atrocities that occurred at Freddy's to rest, and sending William to hell. And then, in FNAF 9, we burn Trap multiple times to get him to stop possessing Freddy, and to again try to kill him. Because Gregory is not above killing. That's a topic for another day. And this is because Henry learned that the only way to destroy Remnant and put these beings to rest was through fire. But is that really how we deal with these animatronics and people? Because like, while 9 out of 10 doctors recommend Crest Pro Health toothpaste, 3 out of 3 FNAF fires haven't worked. We have been told that fire is the only thing that is hot enough to burn off Remnant and to actually destroy it, aside from the fact that matter cannot be created nor destroyed, but it's also been described as a liquid metal. Liquid metal is a hell of a lot hotter than your typical run-of-the-mill gasoline fire, trust me, okay? I have the expertise in this department, so in essence, every single animatronic who is supposed to be set free by a cleansing fire hasn't been so far. The only time we've seen souls actually be put to rest is in FNAF 3's Happiest Day minigame, which involved no fire and just putting the souls to rest by giving them what they wanted, a birthday party. But how could that be possible? Like, Dr. Talbot wouldn't lie to us. He's researching so his little girl wouldn't die, right? Well, this is where this theory starts to blow your mind. I don't think that Dr. Talbot, as described in the FNAF Fazbear Frights books, is a real person. Or rather, I don't think that Dr. Talbot is truly his name. Let's think about it. Who else do we know with a daughter in a compromising position who would have an endless flow of Remnant from an undisclosed source and a close personal friend working as his opposite? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, William frickin' Afton. William Afton, my friends, is the true identity of Dr. Talbot. William is no stranger to using aliases either. Remember Dave Miller from the Silver Eyes? Exactly. And this connection only gets stronger the more you look at it. See, Talbot's daughter ends up being impersonated by Eleanor, who in the Fazbear Frights books is, like, described to be Baby. She's described as basically Baby, just with a longer neck. So both daughters in this scenario also end up becoming Baby at some point. Renelle through being impersonated, and Elizabeth when she possessed Baby through, you guessed it, Remnant. And Talbot and Eleanor are attacked by the Stitch Wraith. What does that relate to? Perhaps the son, who is part animatronic that's been working to undo his father's plans? Michael? Have we seen the animatronics in the games? No, so how can we take any of what's being said in the Fazbear Frights epilogues as fact? The baby blob turned out to be real, but everything else could simply be a metaphor. And Renelle might not even be meant to represent Elizabeth. It could be meant to represent Crying Child, making Eleanor Elizabeth and the Stitch Wraith Michael, and honestly, that sounds like a much more plausible solution than what's being described in these books, especially with the revelation that Gregory could, again, be a rebuilt Crying Child robot, because all these experiments with Remnant worked. If this was truly describing William and Crying Child and Michael and Elizabeth, this would make perfect sense with the story. This is like a recap of what's been going on with FNAF. FNAF 4, Crying Child dies. So William promises that he will put him back together by finding Remnant after he kills the 5 missing children and then disassembling them in FNAF 3's minigames when he releases the spirits and then gets trapped in the Springlock suit. But then we also learn in the original novel trilogy that the Remnant from the original 5 animatronics was injected into the Funtime animatronics. So while the Funtime animatronics have the souls of the 5 missing children all combined into one, they also are serving as an experiment for how he can use it to bring back his son. And he even injects Eleanor, who was impersonating Rennell, with the Remnant, just as he recreates Crying Child into Gregory. So here's how I see it. William as Talbert, through, I'm guessing, just journals that Henry just somehow stumbled onto, were made to spread the rumor of Remnant needing to burn, to be destroyed, so that if Henry ever tried to stop William, he wouldn't be able to. That's why William knows he'll always come back. He's rigged the game, and in doing so, ensured the survival of himself, his daughter, and his 2 sons. Rennell is a representation of Crying Child, having been bitten at his birthday party in 1983 that William is trying to save. Eleanor is the power-hungry daughter Elizabeth that only wants the Remnant for herself, even willing to abandon her father to die to live another day, as we see with the Afton amalgamation, or even kill her father, as we potentially see at the end of the true FNAF Security Breach ending. And the Stitch Wraith is Michael, at first misunderstood, killing his creator like Michael tried in the FNAF 3 and 6 Fire, but in reality trying to right the wrongs of his father before him and bring peace to his family. And as we see in Security Breach, they accomplished their goals. Gregory, representing Crying Child, is back. He and Freddy, representing Michael, stopped William, and Vanny, Elizabeth, gets to fight another day.